Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. We are seeing turmoil, we are seeing aggression, and the stories and the images coming from the Kurdish areas of the northern Syria are really heartbreaking. The fact that this situation is unfolding is itself infuriating. I feel enraged, angry. And I told the Prime President of the United States very clearly that this was not expected from him. This is for the first time he has committed an error, but then human beings do commit error. After all the sacrifices that the Kurdish forces had made in taking the fight to ISIS and in bringing about the end of the so-called caliphate, the American president and the Western world as a whole jointly threw them under the bus and made them an object of the Turkish onslaught. It is shameful. But then, is Trump the only person who is responsible? Is the President of the United States the sole person who has made this tragedy happen? No. The Western powers, including Canada, especially Canada, are equally guilty. Just a year back, President Trump was praising the Kurds for their sacrifices. And honestly speaking, I was all amazed at the bravery of these people, especially Kurdish women. They were the stalwart allies of the forces of humanity. And then we throw them under the bus. And now the tragedy has worsened. Kurdish forces and the NATO forces, including Canadian forces, were fighting the forces of ISIS and Syrian President Assad. Now, the same forces have signed an agreement just a few hours back. Russia, Syria, and Kurdish armies are joining hands to fight Turkish forces, Turkish invaders. And this alliance of the United States, which is United States left, is going to be an issue. The sworn enemy of Washington is Mr. Assad, and he's backed by Russia. And now as the Turkish troops move into the territory of Syria, and President has ordered the withdrawal, these people have joined hands with Russia and Kurdish forces. And President Bashar al-Assad, who was supposed to be given a bloody face by the Kurds, would now be an ally of them. So all the gains, hard-won gains against the Islamic State have been lost. And it has also potentially opened the doors for the return of ISIS. And the danger of the return of ISIS is not only to Middle East. It's not only to Europe, to America, to Canada, because there are a number of people here in Canada who came as the fifth column under the guise of refugees and open border of the government. These are the sleeping cells of ISIS, and they'll wake up. So, you would be thinking that how is Canada responsible or a party to this shameful act of betrayal? USA is. There's no denying the fact, and people are aware of that. But Canada, nobody could expect this country to be that. I think people forget. Now the Kurds are paying a price, and ultimately it will be North America, because Canada is next door to USA and it has been more receptive to the Quislings, to the fifth columnist. So we have alienated a key ally in the Middle East. We have fostered chaos in the region, allowing ISIS to rise from the ashes like a phoenix. But then why condemn Trump for his abandonment of Kurds? We should also look, as I said earlier, why Canada has not been doing much more. Our record has not been the one of which any Canadian would be proud of. It's unfortunate. On the campaign trail, I was shocked to see that none of the 6 federal leaders had much to say about the situation. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer condemned Turkey's attack, and that's all. Jagmeet called the situation troubling, as if he's having a bad dream or as if he shat in his pants while asleep. Green Party leader Elizabeth May said that NATO should review Turkey's membership in the alliance as if that matters. But overall, their remarks have been limited. And Trudeau has been absolutely mum. He didn't say a single word. Barnier didn't say a single word. Black Kibuka Little Lagarde didn't say a single word. The remarks have been so limited and so missing and so unfortunate that I think, is any one of these 6 people fit to be the president to lead the country on the international scene? An issue like this betrayal of the Kurds should upend all political script they have been trying to stick to. But they forget that whosoever becomes the prime minister would have to address such a situation. And then it will be too late. As far as Canada's official response is concerned, Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland did a great job. I laugh at it. She tweeted out a condemnation of Turkey's military excursion into Syria. A tweet instead of an official statement. And then that tweet was nothing at all about the Kurdish allies. It was all about Turkey's unfortunate interference of Turkey into Kurdish affairs. This was not even a lukewarm response. It was a tepid, tasteless, nauseating response. But then that is in line with liberals' support to the Kurds and their efforts to beat ISIS. Look at what the record of the liberals is. They took office in 2015, and the first thing they did was withdrew the fighter jets which were helping Kurds. That was the first stab in the back of these freedom fighters. And not only freedom fighters, but the fighters for the human liberties. Fighters for the victory of anti-terror and anti-fundamental forces. And these fighter planes, which were withdrawn by Trudeau government, had been providing a very important, vital support role in the offense against ISIS. And naturally, this annoyed our Kurdish allies a lot. But then beggars cannot be choosers. In the fitness of things, Kurds should have simply folded up and said, hell with you, we are not fighting, we'll lead our peaceful lives. But they were the people of honor. These men and women, Peshmerga girls, 17-year-old girls killing 7, 10, 15 ISIS people. These Peshmerga fighters, these Kurdish fighters, took in a stride this first act of betrayal by Canada of the withdrawal of the fighter jets. Then Trudeau government promised them that they will supply arms to them. They said, okay, we are withdrawing fighters, but we'll give you arms. But we never followed that up. It was just a promise made, never fulfilled because there was no intention of fulfilling it. The Kurds appealed many times, but we ignored the repeated pleas from the Kurds to deal with our foreign nationals, whom they have been holding along with the other ISIS prisoners. Last year, or year before last, 2017, Kurds voted for independence. Canada was urging them all the time to cancel the vote. Don't ask for independence, that it was saying. Imagine, we pride ourselves on being a freedom-loving country, and we tell a country, a nation divided, not to vote to have independence. They are not saying it to Khalistanis, don't have a referendum next year. No. But they are telling Kurds, don't have a vote. Be subject to the humiliation and torture by Turkish people and earlier by Saddam. So they're divided. And then, when the votes took place, Canada was one of the few countries which ignored the results. This was a point when the Kurds had a reason to question Canadian commitment. But the situation is changed now. The American betrayal may make them reluctant to trust anyone anytime soon. Least of all Canada, which was the first to stab them in the back. But does that mean that we should ignore the issue and hope for the best? No. Canada today should rise up. Canada should rise up for two reasons. A, to maintain and adhere to its values, see in its own selfish interest. First, let me take the selfish interest. If ISIS comes back, what their agenda was to blow off CN Towers, to kill the Prime Minister, and to bring Syria to Canada, make Canada Canadistan, where Syria would be the rule rather than an exception. That's a danger for Canada. And that would happen if ISIS comes back. As I said, they might have, I'm not sure, but it's quite possible. You see, as I always say, there's a possibility and probability. Here it's both possible and probable that some of the people who came in would be agents of ISIS. We know it because one of the Al-Qaeda fighters was given $10.5 billion by the Trudeau government. So that's quite possible. And they didn't do it out of ill will. They did it with possibly the good intention. But as I always say, way to the hell is paved with good intention. Now, secondly, if we want to adhere to our values, we flaunt them, we talk of them, we boast of them, then we have to see that the Turkish offensive is condemned. And Canada forces NATO to take a harder line, even consider sanctions on Turkey. Why not do it? You can apply sanctions on anybody. You did it on India and on Pakistan because they tested nuclear technology. And you can't do it here where they're killing hundreds and thousands of the people. This would be a real case of the test of the integrity of Canada and the Western people. Then, why don't we tell US administration that abandoning Kurds is a moral mistake, a strategic mistake, and we are prepared to announce and demonstrate our commitment to the same. But then, another reason, if Russia is successful in increasing its hold in Middle East, Canada is in danger from Russia as well. Don't forget, Russia is already making inroads along with China in Arctic. And if US is enfeebled and weakened as a result of this act of ignorance, an act of omission, then Russians would be much more successful. And they have just developed a new weapon. It's a submarine bomb which can release 10,000 nuclear bombs at one time. Single fire. So it's quite dangerous. What is needed is to awaken our conscience, our reason, our logic. Hopefully, 22nd of October, we'll have a new government in Ottawa. Whether it's a liberal or it's conservative, whichever, but it's a new government. But I hope that government will wake up, take a meaningful stance on the situation. Unfortunately, things are growing worse every day. As I told you just a few hours back, Russia, Assad, and Kurds joined hands. Waiting till October 21 is a luxury. We cannot afford it. But there is no alternative. The only alternative is let all the leaders come on one platform and say we are going to take action, and because of this national emergency, which can degenerate into international emergency, and it's an international emergency. They say, okay, we are asking NATO to stop, intervene. And why not have NATO forces go and help Kurds against Turkey and impose economic sanctions, travel sanctions, financial sanctions on Turkey for this wanton act of betrayal. But are the leaders listening? That's $1 million question. Thank you.